Hey YouTube, what is going on? Fallout here, and we are now in Season of the Haunted. So what I wanted to do was quickly dive into PvP with the boys and do a showcase, an in-depth guide to Solar 3.0. We're going to go through each class. We're going to go through the new verbs that Bungie dropped so you understand everything. We're going to go through every aspect and fragment. Twitch chat is here. We're doing it live on the Twitch channel. Everybody's really hype. It's going to be a lot of fun. If there's one thing in particular that you want to check out, like if you want to watch only the guide to the Hunter or the Titan or whatever, there should be chapters below in today's YouTube video. So please subscribe if you're new. If you haven't done so yet, really appreciate you. And let's get started with Solar 3.0. Okay, YouTube, here we go. Before going into Solar 3.0, we first have to understand the new verbs that Bungie is giving us regarding Solar 3.0. Because when we read through aspects or fragments, if we see words like radiant or scorch, you need to understand what that means. So chapter 1 right now, we're going to go through and cover each of the new verbs tied to Solar 3.0. So there are 5 verbs: cure, restoration, radiant, scorch, and ignite. Cure is you are healed in a burst of mending solar light. So for cure, every time you read the word cure, then just immediately think of a big chunk of health coming back to you immediately. Restoration, you continuously regenerate health and shields over time. Cannot be interrupted by taking damage. So when you read restoration, think about regenerating health, kind of like recovery, repeatedly regenning health and shields over time. Radiant, your weapons are enhanced by the power of the Traveler and deal increased damage to foes. Unsure at this time if Radiant is going to be a hard set number, like if it will always be 10 or 15%. But just remember that when you read the word Radiant, think of an outgoing damage buff. Scorch, the target is singed by destructive solar light, taking damage over time. Scorch damage increases as the target accumulates more Scorch stacks. After 100 Scorch stacks are applied to the target, they will ignite. And real quick, ignite is a large, damaging solar explosion in the area around the target. So for Scorch or Ignite, think of Stasis 3.0 with slow and frozen. So in the same way that if you get too many stacks of being slowed, you eventually become frozen. In the same way is the relationship between Scorch and Ignite. When you get tagged with Scorch, you will do damage over time and take a lot of tick damage. And when you hit 100, you will ignite and there will be a big, large boom. Now we're going to go through, before we even touch aspects, because I'm going to do a class by class breakdown, we're going to do each fragment in the game. So first I have to just put on an aspect in order to view the fragments, but we're going to go through each of these fragments. Now I've been told, which I think is also on Bungie.net, they have 4 redacted fragments listed here on the Solar 3.0 patch notes. But now that we have everything completely unlocked, it looks as though there are only 2 that are not yet able for us to use, which I believe could be tied to the dungeon on Friday. Now, it's entirely possible there could be more, but we did find 2 fragments here that were not on Bungie's list. So I do believe they kind of effed up and maybe only had 2 redacted, not 4. But for right now, you can use every fragment in the game, with the exception of Ember of Empyrean and the Ember of Char. Okay, we have Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. We have Ember of Benevolence. Applying Restoration, Cure, or Radiant to allies grants increased grenade, melee, and class ability regeneration for a short duration, and that will come with a 10 penalty to discipline. We have Ember of Beams. Your solar super projectiles have stronger target acquisition, plus 10 intellect tied to that. We have Ember of Combustion. Final blows with your solar super cause targets to ignite. We have the Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. Ember of Tempering. Solar weapon final blows grant you and your allies increased recovery for a short duration, stacks 3 times. While Ember of Tempering is active, your weapons have increased airborne effectiveness with a 10 recovery penalty. Ember of Blistering. Defeating targets with solar ignitions grants grenade energy. Ember of Solace. Radiant and Restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. Ember of Ashes, you apply more Scorch stacks to a target. And Ember of Wonder, rapidly defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions, generates orbs of power. Ember of Empyrean. Solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied to you with a 10 resil penalty. Ember of Char. Your solar ignitions spread scorch to affected targets with a extra 10 discipline. Ember of Eruption. Your solar ignitions have increased area of effect with a 10 buff to strength. We have the Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy with a 10 buff to recovery. I'm already trying to think of how some of these will play out in both PvP and PvE. I think for PvE, it's going to be heavily focused on trying to stack up Radiant. Definitely seems like a play, or maybe you could go for a build featuring Ignition and Scorch, where you're trying to burn up everybody to create a lot of huge ignition explosions. This all looks like it could work pretty well together, but those are each fragment right now. We'll go a little bit more in depth with each fragment as we eventually cover every class in Solar 3.0. Before we get into each specific class guide, because each grenade is the same across every class, we're going to quickly cover each grenade, including a few new options. And by the way, if you go into a game and you hover over your grenade options, some of them might not be available right away, but you can actually get them immediately if you just go to the tower and speak to Ikora Ray at the tower and then meditate right next to her. You will literally unlock every grenade. You do need to spend a little bit of Glimmer, but that's pretty much it. The first grenade we're going to go over is the Solar Grenade, a grenade that creates a flare of solar light that continuously damages and scorches targets trapped inside. This should be similar to the regular solar grenade. Big damage right when it hits you, then repeated chip damage. Hey, Mudkip, do me a favor here, would you? Just run through this solar grenade, would you? There you go. Definitely does more damage if you get a direct impact, but you will take chip damage when you run through it. We got the Trip Mine Grenade, explosive grenade that sticks to surfaces and detonates when targets pass through, dealing damage and moderately scorching. Time, go ahead and run through that. Not bad. Next grenade, we've got the old Swarm Grenade, a grenade that detonates on impact, releasing multiple drones that seek nearby targets. Each drone slightly scorches affected targets. There you go, Swarm Nade. And the little particles track. We've got the Incendiary Grenade, very classic grenade. It explodes in a fiery burst and heavily scorches nearby targets. Oh, that was good. Yeah, that'll probably kill you.
That'll do it.
Oh, no, you lived.
No.
You know what? It might be dependent on your overall resil number. The Thermite Grenade, a grenade that sends forth a burning line of fire, dealing damage and scorching targets in its path. This is a classic Titan grenade that I actually really enjoy. Kind of hyped that I get to use it on Hunter or Titan. Or I'm sorry, or Warlock. There you go. Phew. And that can easily get a one-hit kill because it just keeps pumping out waves. 4 waves total. Next, we have the Fire Bolt Grenade, a grenade that unleashes bolts of damaging solar light at nearby targets and slightly scorching them. Let's see if I can get a double on both y'all. Yes, indeedy. Fusion Grenade, an explosive grenade that attaches to targets, damaging and moderately scorching them on detonation. Although I don't think it'll be able to get a one-hit kill. Yeah, with the explode twice thing.
Yeah, with that explode
definitely
twice,
will
probably
kill.
will.
Final grenade, which is actually new, is the Healing Grenade, a grenade that cures allies on impact and creates an orb of benevolent solar light, granting restoration to allies when picked up. Well, usually you had to get the grenade by holding down the button and charging it if you played a Warlock. There you go. No charge required. Final thing to take note of for each grenade is that each one has a different timer. So the Healing Grenade has 1 minute and 22. Solar is 2 minutes. The Incendiary is also 2 minutes, 2:01 to be exact. Thermite is 1:45. Trip Mine is 1:31. I find that kind of shocking. Trip Mines are very strong. Swarm Grenade is 1:31. I also find that kind of shocking. Fusion grenade is 113, which, wait a minute. The fusion grenade has the second shortest timer, and then the firebolt has the shortest grenade cooldown time of 104. So shortest cooldown time, firebolt at 104, and the ceiling is both the solar and incendiary grenade at 201. Now what we're going to do is do each class one at a time for Solar 3.0, and we're going to start off with the Warlock. So before we even get to the aspects, I want to just cover the ability and the melee, because we have a couple options here that are slightly new. So the Healing Rift, y'all know the Healing Rift, ain't nothing different about that. You can drop that on the ground to get health regen. The Empowering Rift, ain't nothing new about that. You can just drop it on the ground and you get extra damage output. Now we have Phoenix Dive. While Heat Rises is active, you gain restoration while diving and scorch targets upon landing. Dive to the ground and create a burst of solar light that cures nearby allies. So this is very interesting that if you want to Phoenix Dive, you literally lose the ability to drop a rift. You dive at an angle and you shove people. It's good to know. Thank you. Looks like you got health back. Did you get health back?
Yeah, I did.
Terrific. Damage me a little bit. All right, give me the Phoenix Dive time. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. Let me eat my grenade. And now, solar damage for you. So no matter what, you will heal teammates by doing your dive. But if you have Heat Rises, you gain restoration when diving, and you can scorch enemies if you land on them. Why don't we move forward to the melees for the Warlock, of which there are two. So the Celestial Fire should probably be a melee that a lot of people who play Top Tree Dawnblade are very familiar with. So there's your target. It's a ranged melee. You throw it. Lovely. Doesn't do huge damage, only about 90, but it's super ranged and really awesome. And Celestial Fire is extremely tried and true for Warlock players. This is the new one. This is the Roy Mustang melee from the Solar 3.0 trailer. It's called Incinerator Snap. Snap your fingers to create a fan of burning sparks that explode and scorch targets. And remember that scorch is, in fact, chip damage. Remember from the verb chapter. So let's do one where I Roy Mustang Mudkip alone. Oh, I forgot to turn it on. Excuse me. And then we'll do one with Time and Mudkip together. Did I turn it on? That is so goddamn cool. Okay, so there is a complete range on it. Like, if you go too far away, none of the projectiles will hit you. Wow. Even with being point blank, it seems that some of the projectiles will go around you. So I think most of the time, you should actually just be back here and get kind of like on one target a guaranteed 90 damage. You got to be shockingly close for all of those projectiles to hit you. Wow. That was extremely odd. It's kind of like a short range shotgun version of Celestial Fire. That's tight. I really, really enjoy that. Let's keep moving through the Warlock, and we will cover aspects. First one, we got Icarus Dash. Feel like that one is really tried and true if you are a former Warlock player at all. Hit the button in midair, and you can do a quick little dodge. And when Heat Rises, you have an additional dodge. So you can compare those together. You can put them together if you want. So there's the Icarus Dash. Remember, if you're a Warlock player, if you want to get the most out of your Icarus Dash, don't jump one time and then dash. You usually want to try to jump one time, activate your Burst Glide, and then Icarus Dash. So it's a very quick timing. It's kind of like 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, rather than a very slow one with just one jump. And again, let's see, activate Heat Rises. And dodge, dodge. Second dodge being much shorter than the first dodge, but that kind of makes sense. You have Heat Rises, and this has 2 fragment slots. Icarus Dash also had 2. So you can fire weapons, melee, and throw grenades while gliding. Hold to consume your grenade, and then final blows while airborne increase the duration of heat rises and give you back melee energy. So really, eat your grenade. Floofing now becomes much easier. You can do fun stuff in the air. It's all about aerial combat. So if you're into that type of scene, heat rises could definitely be the play for you. And the final aspect here is going to be Touch of Flame, which if you're a D1 veteran, you may remember. This is actually from Destiny 1 that they are bringing back into the game for Warlock. So it looks like each Warlock each Warlock aspect right now comes with 2 fragment slots. No option for 3, but then again, no option for 1. Touch of Flame. Your healing, solar, firebolt, and fusion grenades have enhanced functionality. So not every grenade. Nothing for the trip mine. Not every grenade. Only a few. Healing grenade. Improves the strength of cure and restoration effects applied. Solar grenade. You increase the linger duration. Periodically emits blobs of lava around the perimeter. Firebolt grenade. Increase target search radius and maximum target count. And the fusion grenade will explode twice. So I would like to get more people in here to see if we can tinker with the firebolt grenade and find out how many people we can hit at once.
Yep.
That's kind of badass. Okay, so we've covered the fusion grenade. We've covered the firebolt grenade. Why don't we do the solar grenade and the, quote, blobs of lava. Oh, they go kind of far. Wow, each one does 50 damage.
Yeah, that'll hurt.
That's actually not too shabby at all.
That's
Let's
a
see
good
how
area
quickly,
denial.
if I actually tag you with it, like how quickly will you die if you get touched by a...
That's faster than normal solar, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually
dude.
really keen on that, like by a lot.
Dude, I just walked in there and
Throw it in the
died
middle and let me
instantly.
just run through it.
Yeah,
it
just
starts
try and run
blowing
through.
up.
Go, go, go. I mean, it's probably RNG
It
for
is,
if you're
but-
gonna run right through the middle, like if you're going to get hit by a quote blob of lava.
Oh my
That's
god.
awesome.
Hey!
Oh, I love this. Okay, we have a healing grenade. Improves the strength of cure and restoration effects applied. Thank you. Time, heal.
So you get a chunk and then a regen.
Yeah, the chunk and then the burn. Okay, now go ahead and put on the aspect to power up the healing grenade. Time. And tell me when you're good.
Okay, about 2
Okay,
seconds.
Mudkip, hammer me, please. Thank you.
Ooh, that was a lot more potent.
Feel like the chunk of health was greater.
Yes,
And the regen
recharge
might have was
it
a
was
tad
quicker.
quicker too. Watch his health bar very carefully when I throw. Okay, look, he's about to die.
Starts recharging
And then look,
brings
it starts
back down.
regenerating and then it burns down again. I think Bungie has specifically gone in and fine-tuned it to the point where you actually can't get one shot from from being burned. Touch of
But
Flame,
it's- but
even
it's
combined
still-
with Ember of Ashes, no one-hit kill.
It's still going to be very, very strong because it's going to prevent that recovery.
Sure, exactly. Yeah. That's very interesting. Okay, kudos to Bungie for doing that. We have, let's do a little Daybreak. This should be completely normal, just throwing a sword. Oh, there's a tiny smidge of tracking here. Not quite former Dawnblade bottom tree level of tracking. Not quite to that level. Let's see how generous the tracking is. Oh, wow. Oh my god. Okay. That's very... Oh, and I also forgot that when you throw a sword, now you get a mini little thermite explosion on the floor. That is something new as well. Wow, I can't believe how strong the Dawnblade super, oh my god, is now going to be. Yeah, the tracking is quite
Yeah, it's
aggro.
pretty aggressive.
And the thermite grenade on the floor,
Oh, yep.
on it, you don't even need to hit somebody. Like if you just throw... Oh my
It'd
gosh,
be good
let's
for,
see if we can
it'd be good
spam
for
Icarus
smaller
Dash.
maps where there's not a lot of maneuverability in the air, like Cauldron,
can-
for example.
Yeah. Okay, you can still spam Icarus Dash, which is kind of cracked. Tracking is damn good, and my lord, that thermite grenade. is especially exciting. That is really, really, really cool. And the Daybreak cooldown by default is 1025. That's really long. So let's really quickly show the new Well of Radiance, because if you didn't read on Bungie.net, it now works a little bit differently. I think it won't give you an overshield anymore, but it's going to give you additional incoming DR. Okay, Nomad, hit me with that body shot right there. Thank you.
131.
131. Okay, and now I will drop the well. There is no overshield now in the Radiant Well, as you can see. No overshield. Nomad, hit me with it.
66. We're doing half the damage.
Half damage. It appears that if you're being shot by a special weapon, like a sniper rifle or a shotgun, the incoming damage resist is a whopping 50%, which is really good. And if you're being shot by a primary weapon, SMG, hand cannon, what have you, the damage reduction goes down to 40%. So Bungie is trying to make you even tankier if someone is trying to remove you from your Well of Radiance with a special weapon. All right, y'all, here we are on the new PvP map. And now that we are done with the Warlock, we are going to move on to the Hunter featuring Solar 3.0 Gunslinger. First thing we're going to cover is the new abilities. So first of all, we have the old stuff, the Marksman's Dodge. Dodge to perform an evasive maneuver with a steady hand, which will automatically reload your weapon with a base cooldown of 29. Dodge number 2, which again is not new, is the Gambler's Dodge. So you dodge near an enemy and fully recharge your melee ability. Here's the new dodge. It is called the Acrobat Dodge. If you are familiar with the trailer where Bungie showed off everything for 3.0 and they did the developer commentary on 3.0, this would be the quote hunter dive that people are kind of talking about. It looks like a dive, but I'll read the description real quick. Upon landing, you will make yourself and nearby allies radiant. And remember the keyword, the verb radiant from earlier. You will deal increased damage to enemies. I like that it also does 20 damage to you. 47 damage. Time, can you acrobat dive right into me? Leap into me. Thank you. 52. So the radiant buff from the acrobat dive seems very low. That's going to be about a 10% damage buff. That could be different between PvP and PvE. If it is, I'll be sure to maybe mention that down in the comment section. But for right now, why don't we just take Radiant as a potential 10% buff to your outgoing damage in PvP.
Charging.
That's a really, like, I got hit from here. You were quite far from me, and I got hit by the Radiant buff. 122 cooldown on the Acrobat Dodge. Make your allies Radiant for a base duration of 10 seconds, which is really good. Essentially, you get Rampage level 1 for free for 10 seconds. Why don't we move on to the melee abilities? We've got the Knife Trick, which you might be familiar with if you're one of like the 12 people who plays Blade Barrage before Solar 3.0. Throw out your melee. Those knives looked much closer together. Was that just me? Yeah, they're 100% tighter, for sure. Chat is confirming that they are definitely tighter. That's actually great to know. PvE players might be sad about that because they may potentially enjoy... Sorry, no bad. They may enjoy fanning out the knives a little bit more for hitting people further away from each other, but I actually really think that's the better play of making the knives more bunched together for easier burst damage on one target. Default cooldown on the new Knife Trick is 122. Keep that in mind. Next, we have the Weighted Throwing Knife, which, if you're familiar with, is going to do a lot of damage. Precision final blows with this knife immediately recharge your class ability, and you throw a knife that deals extra precision damage and causes scorched targets to ignite. So the weighted throwing knife, still a one-hit kill, 212 damage, provided that you hit them in the head. So if you're a weighted throwing knife Hunter fan, just remember that you no longer have the ability to get your weighted throwing knife back after hitting an enemy in the head.
But it will reset your ability, your acrobat ability.
It does. So here, let's dive. So now we've lost the dive, but then the knife gets you your dodge back, which is great, you mentioned, because the acrobat dodge has an absurdly long cooldown time. So in theory, you could put those two together and have a lot of fun. The knife description reads that if a target is scorched, they will ignite. So I lit him on fire with a firebolt grenade. Anything you can do to apply the scorched effect, and now the knife will make him go boom, ignite. That is a really fun little combo right there. Moving on, we have the lightweight knife. Quickly throw a knife that deals moderate damage. Precision hits with the knife make you radiant for a short duration, and that has the second longest cooldown at 1:30. Okay, 10-second default duration, which you can extend to 15 with the correct fragment. So here we have Ember of Solace for the extended radiant duration, and we have Ember of Torches to allow my powered melee attack to make me radiant.
Yep.
So
and it works against.
hit
It
you.
works in PvE. Yep.
Oh my god, yeah. It goes out, it has that AoE.
Yeah.
So
if
like
you
as long as you see the golden AoE on the floor,
Yeah.
like I
Oh,
hit
yeah,
you
around
with a
your body.
knife and we both become radiant. It's only 10%, but like, hey man, 10% can shorten your time to kill by a noticeable amount.
will-
Like for example, with 10%, watch, I hit Mudkip with this. Now I'm radiant. 2 head, 1 body.
Yep.
It's a kill with a 140 RPM hand cannon. We can now talk about the aspects, which I will go through one at a time, and we will fiddle with them as needed. First up, we have Knock 'em Down, which will give you 2 fragment slots. Your solar supers are enhanced. Golden Gun, Deadshot, has increased duration. Golden Gun Marksman has increased DR and duration. And Blade Barrage launches more projectiles. While Radiant, final blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund your melee energy. So first of all, let's see how long the duration of Deadshot is. And Deadshot is the 6-shot Golden Gun. About 10 seconds. Now we will turn on Knock 'em Down. 15. Both of you test body shot damage one time.
47.
47.
Alrighty. And now
40.
47 to 40. That is a 15% incoming damage reduction for Golden Gun. There,
So
are you happy, hunters? Knock 'em
That is-
down.
It's not a glass cannon anymore. Let's go.
Not a
can I-
complete glass cannon. You can
Can
do
we-
a little bit better with 15% incoming DR if you are equipped with the knock 'em down solar aspect. If I throw them very far at that wall,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, you can see a lot more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think there's about 10. Let me count. That's a lot. Why don't we take the aspect off? It may actually double the amount of knives that you throw. Not quite double, but you definitely do get more knives for sure. And throw. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It went right to you. It went immediately to you. Oh yeah, that's hardcore aim assist. Oh, like hard. If you turn on the knock 'em down aspect, that is a hard aim assist track via the Hunter Blade Barrage. They will go directly to your target, even if you're aiming off to the side like a little bit. So not only do you get close to double the knives thrown, but hitting your target is going to be much, much easier. And remember the final part where, while Radiant, any final blow you get with your equipped throwing knife will fully refund your melee energy. Okay, why don't we move on? The on your mark aspect, which if you're noticing right away, I definitely am. There are 3 fragment slots. So if you're trying to really load up on fragments, you could entirely put on the on your mark solar aspect. So here we have precision final blows grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration, stacks 3 times. Activating your class ability, aka your hunter dodge, grants maximum stacks of on your mark. If I swap to my shotgun right now with nothing, it's kind of bad. Now we activate on your mark, and that's so much quicker. We've got Gunpowder Gamble as the final aspect, and it must be really good because we're looking at it right now, and it only has 1 available fragment slot. So defeat targets with abilities, solar debuffs, or solar weapons to charge up an improvised solar explosive. Throw a solar explosion that can be shot mid-air to cause an ignition. No matter
Gunpowder's
how quick.
gamble. You got to charge it up, what, 6 times before you're allowed to do anything with it?
Gunpowder gamble. Oh, there's a bar there, and I have 2 out of 6. Yay. Oh, it goes so slow. Good damage, though. I think it got up to 120 on that. It has a cooldown, though, by the way. So after you use the gunpowder gamble, 10-ish seconds where you won't be able to use it again.
They said that you can stick it to things.
Hey, look at
Oh, don't move, don't move.
That's so good.
Wow, that's cool, man. You can stick it to a wall, you can stick it to a surface, you can stick it to an enemy. You cannot stick it to a teammate. It will detonate on its own, even if you don't shoot it after a period of time. It can damage you, and the maximum amount of ignition damage it can do on its own seems to be about 120. Why don't we go ahead and cover Titan for Solar 3.0. And first, we are going to go through the class abilities in case there's any changes, which there aren't. The Towering Barricade and the Rally Barricade seem to both remain the same. Tower with a 40-second cooldown and Rally with a 32-second cooldown. No new ability there for the Titan, the way we would have for the Warlock or for the Hunter. For melees, we have both the Throwing Hammer and the Hammer Strike. So first we'll cover the Throwing Hammer. Throw a hammer from a distance. Picking up a thrown hammer fully recharges your melee ability. If the hammer struck a target, picking it up grants Cure, which, remember the verb from earlier on in the video, you are healed in a burst of solar light. Sure.
Yeah,
That was
definitely more.
so minimal. But it doesn't seem to have much of a cooldown. So the cure you get from the hammer seems to be very, very minimal. Next, we can move on to Hammer Strike. After sprinting for a short time, use the melee ability to swing a hammer that scorches your target and deals damage in a cone behind them. If your target is defeated by Hammer Strike, they will ignite. So just a shoulder charge from before, and if you defeat the target, they will ignite. So I'm going to damage you, and now it is shoulder charge time. And boom, ignite on death.
Beautiful.
So there you go. That is the new Hammer Strike. I guess we can talk about supers real quick, of which there are only 2. There's the regular Hammer of Soul, and there's the Burning Maul. So regular Hammer of Soul, you pop your super, and you can chuck flaming hammers at your enemies, and upon impact, the hammer will now automatically shatter into explosive molten shards. That burst apart thing with the hammer. There you go, that triple fireball play at the end there. Of course, we have Burning Maul, aka the Burning Meme. Summon a flaming maul and crush your enemies with the force of an earthquake. You can either do one regular light attack where you spin around you repeatedly, damaging nearby targets, or you can do your alternate attack and slam the hammer into the ground, which I will demonstrate. Hammer, light attack, which you can pretty much spam forever if you wish. And then the alternate attack is the ground pound. You guys want to see how good the tracking is on Hammer of Soul with that one fragment?
Yes.
I feel like the tracking on the fragment is not super terrific. Don't move. Let's see if I throw it like here. It barely tracks. It doesn't track the same way the Dawnblade sword tracks. Okay, well those are the 2 Titan supers. So why don't we move forward and talk about the aspects, which we can go right into the first one, Roaring Flames, which is a 2-fragment aspect. Final blows with solar abilities or ignitions increase the damage of your solar abilities, will stack up to 3 times. So normal throwing hammer damage is 121. Now we got Roaring Flames 1, and now we're up to 137. Now we're at times 3.
Come on, baby. Show me the money.
Oh, 176. Wow, they took away the ability to one-shot with the hammer. I bet, though, you could still probably do it with... Here, hold on. Hit you with that. And then we change this, and then we put this on. $185. Wow. So even with the exotic Heart of Inmost Light, compared with or put together with Roaring Flames times 3. Ooh, the one-shot hammer build actually no longer a thing. Why don't we move on to Soul Invictus, which, if you're unfamiliar, is the Sunspot thing for the Titans. Solar ability Final Blows, Hammer of Soul impacts, and defeating scorched targets will create a Sunspot. Your abilities regenerate faster, and your super drains more slowly while standing in a Sunspot. Sunspot applies Scorched and deals damage to targets inside. Entering a Sunspot applies Restoration. Come into this Sunspot real quick, homie. And there you go. Little chip damage there. And again, as long as they are burning and or scorched, any kill on that will generate a Sunspot. Not too shabby. Why don't we take a look at the final one, which is Consecration. Is this the hammer uppercut thing? I think it is. While sliding, activate your charged melee ability to launch a wave of solar energy forward, damaging and scorching targets in front of you as you leap into the air. When airborne, activate your charged melee again to slam to the ground and create a second larger wave of damaging solar energy. If the wave hits a scorched target, they will ignite, aka go boom. I'm just trying to see how long you can do the hang time for, you know?
Oh, yeah.
A fair amount of time. Slide towards you and hammer away. Yes, you can turn it away. Slide uppercut. Yeah, like what was that? 30-ish damage, maybe 40 with the burn.
There you go.
Wow.
It's a one shot. Wow.
You can one-hit kill people with that ability. Oh my god, that is really, really, really strong. You cannot do this while in your super, by the way. Okay, y'all, so for the final part of the video, I just wanted to put together a quick sample build of Solar 3.0 to kind of get your brain juices going. And we will start with a quick build that I threw together for Warlock, Solar 3.0. We will do a Hunter and Titan build as well. So here's the spiel. I have on the Claws of Ahamkara, which is going to give me 2 melee charges. We also have 100 strength, so the goal being to have as much melee energy available as you possibly can. So we have on the Incineration Snap, aka the Roy Mustang move, and when you take a look at the fragments that we've equipped with the Snap, you'll figure out kind of the point of the build. So Ember of Torches, we now have the ability to make nearby allies and me radiant every time we land a powered melee attack. So I use my Roy Mustang melee, bam, all of a sudden me and any nearby ally becomes radiant, which again, 10% damage buff in PvP. Moving on, we have Ember of Benevolence. So we have applying Restoration Cure or Radiant to an ally gives increased grenade melee and class ability regeneration for a short time. So I use my Snap melee, I become Radiant if I hit a target, and so do nearby allies. And if I have a nearby ally, then all of a sudden we get better grenade and melee regeneration rate for a short period of time. Applying Radiant to me or my ally will go from 10 to 15 seconds with Ember of Solace. And then finally, we have Ember of Searing, where if I hit someone with my Roy Mustang melee and they are now scorched, and we defeat that target, we gain back extra melee energy. So to give you a quick example of how the build will work, I have my ally Mudkip nearby. I pop off the Roy Mustang melee, bam. All of a sudden, me and Mudkip are both radiant for 15 seconds, again, which is a 10% damage buff. And I mean, in theory, that on its own should be enough. But if we kill anyone who is scorched, we get that melee energy right back with the fragments that we have on. Now, in theory, you could also put on Heat Rises. So if you get a final blow when airborne, you get more melee energy back no matter what. So just a quick little sample build. You could do Celestial Fire instead, but I like the kind of guaranteed mid-range power of the Roy Mustang melee. And again, 15 seconds of free 10% damage buff for you and nearby allies is kind of cracked. So in time, I'll think of more build possibilities like that. But just to get your brain juices going, there is a sample PvP build for the Warlock. Okay, everybody, now we're putting together a sample Hunter Solar 3.0 build. and we threw something together kind of funny that we hope you'll enjoy. The main appeal of this build, shout out to Mudkip for recommending Cryosthesia, by the way. So the whole point of the build is to get your throwing knife back, your weighted throwing knife, and get a bunch of easy one-hit kills with the throwing knife paired together with the Cryosthesia. And remember that now when you land a weighted throwing knife and you get that kill, you don't get the knife charge back immediately. It now will immediately recharge your class ability. But with the combination of Knock 'em Down and Ember of Torches, you will get your knife back immediately, because with Ember of Torches, powered melee attacks on a combatant will make you and nearby allies radiant. And with Knock 'em Down, when you are radiant, final blows with your equipped throwing knife will completely refund the energy. So if you're looking for a way to get your weighted throwing knife back immediately with the new change, all you have to do is pair together Knock 'em Down and Ember of Torches. But why stop there? So we also have Ember of Singeing on right now. So your class ability will recharge quicker when you scorch targets. So just for fun, we put on the Swarm Grenade. So anytime I tag anyone with even one little bit of the Swarm Grenade, I will scorch people. And therefore, thanks to Ember of Singeing, I will get my dodge back a little bit quicker, which is good because we have the Acrobat dodge on, which has a very long cooldown. So the Singeing will help with the dodge cooldown. We have Ember of Benevolence. So applying Restoration Cure or Radiant, and remember our dodge will apply Radiant. And likewise for the Ember of Torches, if we land our big throwing knife attack, we will make people radiant. So we have better grenade, melee, and class ability regen thanks to Ember of Benevolence. Ember of Solace, Radiant, and Restoration effects applied to you have better duration. So that goes from 10 to 15 seconds with that. And finally, I just put on defeating scorched targets will give you more melee energy. So in case we F up a melee and we have to wait for the charge to come back, in theory, you just hit someone with something scorched and then you can finish them off and get the better melee energy. I put on your mark really only so we could get 5 fragments on this build. And we do have Assassin's Cowl on because we thought it would be funny to take advantage of extra invisibility when using the build that we have right here. So here's the kind of build in a nutshell. We have Cryosthesia, which if you are unfamiliar, after we get a kill, we have the ability now to power reload and freeze an enemy with one shot. So we freeze Mudkip, hit him with the weighted throwing knife because he's frozen and he can't really go anywhere. We become radiant thanks to that fragment, and because we get a knife kill when radiant, we immediately get the knife back. So that is just a really fun little PvP build. And again, when we land the knife, even though we're on solar, we get a burst of healing and we get to go camo for a couple of seconds, which could be really, really fun in PvP. So if you're going to try this build, I would recommend maybe trying to get your strength stat pretty high. Now, in theory, again, you should get your melee back because of the combination with Ember of Torches and Knock 'em Down. But in case you whiff or F up, whatever, couldn't hurt to get more melee charges. You could also do melee kickstart for the exact same thing. And of course, utility kickstart on a hunter because it is literally OP and broken, gives you more dodge, and it only costs 1 energy to put on double utility kickstart. So there is a fun little Hunter Solar 3.0 build for PvP. Okay, YouTube, here we have the final Solar 3.0 experimentation to get your mental juices flowing build. We're going to do it for the Titan. This was put together by not only me, but also my Twitch chat as well, who had a bunch of really great ideas. So shout out to them. The point of the build is kind of twofold. We're going to be trying to take advantage of the consecration aspect for the Titan, which is pretty strong and badass and can one-shot kill people in PvP. And we're going to also take advantage of Path of the Burning Steps to get an outgoing weapon buff damage. If you get solar final blows, if you get 2 of them with your hammer ability, Firewalker will kick in, which provides a weapon damage buff. And then also later, which we'll talk about, when you become Radiant, you also get an outgoing weapon damage buff. So you can, in fact, get 2 damage buffs together at the same time. We also have Monte Carlo turned on to make sure that we're getting even more melee energy back. There's actually a couple things going for the melee energy train. But let's talk about Consecration here. So you slide and activate the first part, the uppercut of your melee. And remember, doing that, it's important, will scorch enemies. So because enemies are being scorched, defeating a scorched target will give us more melee energy with the Ember of Searing. And again, should be a one-hit kill. So if we get a kill with that ability, automatically get a big chunk of melee energy back. Also on our gauntlets, we have melee kickstart. So in theory, when we use our melee ability, we should automatically get a big chunk of melee energy back. With the Ember of Torches, we already talked about this, but using our Consecration melee will make us and nearby allies radiant for an extra 10% damage buff. And if we have an ally nearby who we apply that radiant effect to, we get even more melee ability regeneration coming back to us. So there's a lot of things going here for the repeated melee regeneration. A lot of things going on. And again, we also have Monte Carlo. So in theory, if we start getting weapon damage buffs via either Radiant or the Path of Burning Steps, Monte Carlo becomes that much deadlier, and then we can get our melee back even further. So here we go. Here's the uppercut. Bam, one-shot kill. Now I have both Radiant and Firewalker, and then Liquefied. 2 weapon damage buffs for the price of 1, thanks to Path of Burning Steps, and thanks to Radiant. It's not going to happen with every ability kill with Path of Burning Steps. I think it's every 2. But still, really cracked loadout. Seems to be a lot of fun. Definitely try to take advantage of that solar melee one-shot ability kill. Is just, damn, that is fun. Goal being to take advantage of that. So I hope that at least got your mental juices flowing. Do me a favor, head down to the comment section and let me know down there what videos you want from me this week. The new season is live. Everything is really crazy and hectic, but I want to hear from you guys what videos you want from me. And please subscribe to the channel if you're new, if you haven't done it yet. Free and a very great way to support the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.